Hey guys, welcome back to Kiwi Classics and Customs. So today we got a little project on. This is a nice 66 Mustang coupe we got here. It's already had quite a few updates to it, but the owner wants to add in a Dakota Digital Dash with the digital displays and everything that goes with it. Let's get going on this. We obviously, as you can see, we got a bunch of stuff, little black boxes, bus cables, sensors, a bunch of stuff we've got to get in the car. So I'm going to go through that with you guys, and it's got almost a novel for a set of instructions, to kind of guide you through it, which is pretty good. But it can seem a little bit over-facing. But honestly, watch and I'll go through it. I'll make it as simple as we can. It's really not as bad as you'd think. It can get a little bit over-facing when you're looking at a whole lot of wires behind the old dash cluster. But you take it a step at a time. It's really not too bad. So let's get at it. Yeah, so we've got the main cluster here, which is obviously, it's got a bunch more information and a bunch more gauges. In the stock setup, we've got some sensors. What have you got to go? Water temp, oil pressure. We've got the little black box, the brain, which is really the interface between the your new digital display and all the old school analog kind of information that's getting sent to the dash or the display. Another bus cable here, just more things to go in. We've got a dash light dimmer, which is in this little box, and inside this packet is your huge 20-page set of instructions. But let's see if we can't throw that out the window, and I'll show you how I do it. Okay, let's go. Alright, so this is where we're going to be for the next few hours. First thing I'm going to do is get rid of the steering wheel, in this situation the customer actually wants a different steering wheel on, so it's got to go. But I would recommend, as part of your install, taking this off. You'll end up fighting through it, reaching around it, like for the whole installation if you don't. And honestly, for the 10 minutes or less that it takes to get it off, just get this gone. Obviously we've got to take these rally pack gauges off as well. And yeah, so let's just get that out of the way, and we'll pull the cluster out, the original cluster, and let's keep moving. Okay, we got the rally pack gauges just hanging down out of the way now. I've already popped the steering wheel with just a little cheap Harbour Freight steering wheel puller. You don't need snap-on or anything to do that. I've had an old one of those for many years and it's working just fine. I usually put a little Sharpie mark across here, across the end of the shaft, the steering column shaft, and like a straight line right through, and then you just know where to clock it. So it's coming out for there. Now I've already taken the screws out around the main cluster, so we can just work this forward. You're lucky, like this one, it's coming out enough that I can reach in and disconnect the speedo cable. Now sometimes they don't want to come out that far and you have to reach up from under the dash. And yeah, that can be, if you've got big hands like me, that can be a challenge. So that's the speedo cable off. We're just going to roll this out, roll this forward. And you might lose the odd bulb out of here. Let's just pop that. Sometimes there's not quite as much cable as you'd like. This one's, I'm going to grab the camera so you can actually see what I'm doing in here. Okay, try and do this as best I can for you guys. Now, what you want to be doing now, instead of videoing like I'm doing, is taking some photos, guys. Take some photos of the back of the cluster. Make sure you get the colours of the wiring in, to see which colours go into which little pocket. That one light bulb popped out just there. That goes in this empty hole here. And yeah, take lots of photos. Now you'll see up in here, big pause, there's a little kind of clip there holding some of the wiring, and there's another one further back over here. Pull that out of the way. It's going to free up a little bit of our loom to just let this all come out a bit further. And yeah, we can just work this out. Now this is a little, it is, you know, it's a challenge, there's no doubt about it. You've just kind of, without tearing stuff up, got to get it out some. So yeah, get yourself some good photos. The other thing you can do is a little bit of masking tape, right on it, each thing that it is, where it's coming from, and tape that to the wire, like your turn signals. But yeah, honestly, if you take photos, pictures worth 1,000 words, you can see that's, or even a video, you know, that's green. This one here, you know, you got a green with a black trace, you got a yellow one going here. Basically all they've got to come out, so we can pop this whole cluster out. We'll start cutting the ends off some of the wires, and we'll get this thing done. Okay, now here's another little handy hint. Someone's been in here and obviously had this dash out before, and they've written on the back of this cluster the colors, you know, white, blue, white, red. That's not a bad idea either. That's actually fairly clever. If you can get it out, I've managed to get it out and roll it over so you can actually read the things that are going on. And yeah, so now it's time to start unplugging stuff. So let's just get all that out of there, and be back in a second. Okay, I've got, basically the wiring goes to the back of the dash on these 64s, 5s and 6s. There's kind of like a left hand side and a right hand side set of plugs that go to the, obviously, left and right hand side of the main cluster. Now you'll notice that there's a bunch of these, there's two each side that are grey with a red tracer. They're dash lights, and you got the same over this side. They're dash lights. Now we're going to need just one of those to run the new, you know, the lights in the new system. So that's basically 4 less wires that you have to figure out. The other bulb, there's one more hanging down here. Now that's going to be the turn signal. So right hand side of the dash, it's going to be the right hand side turn signal. Same with the other side. You've got, actually not quite the same as the other side, because you've got 2 bulbs. Now this is the one that was in the middle of the quarter. That's green with a black tracer. That's your high-low beam indicator bulb. All right, and the other one is this one, which is green with a white tracer. That's your other turn signal. And the reason, you know, it's kind of easy to tell once. Now I'm not labeling anything because I've done these a bunch of times and I kind of know already. So, you know, do mark this stuff before you unplug it, you know, and, you know, take photos, write on it, make notes as much as you can, because once they're undone, they're undone. But yeah, the longer one goes to the middle of the dashboard, and this little bit shorter one goes to the turn signals. So we've already got a bunch of wiring worked out. We've got both turn signals, left and right. We've got the high-low beam figured out. These other 4 wires are all dash lights. They're all the same, grey with a red tracer. So straight away we've eliminated 7 wires that we know. So what we got to do is now connect them into this little brain. Now if we can get a decent shot of it, you can see, now some of these won't be used. You can see a 4x4 EX in the middle. That's not a 4-wheel drive Mustang, so we won't be using that. Warning lights, some of that stuff, you know. And again, read through all your instructions. You've got you know, tack out, ignition power, constant 12-volt source, ground. Relatively simple step. If you look at that whole thing and go, oh, that's a lot of wires, you know, you're going to get a bit put off by it, a bit spooked. But if you go, okay, you know, we've found the dash lights, we've found the high-low beam, which is, you know, just like 3 down, 4 down there, and the left and right turn signals. So let's get those connected, and then you just go looking for the next wire you want to put. We need to find that constant ignition, you know, constant 12-volt and ignition. We'll connect those up. It does need a ground. Now there's a ground in that harness from the ground that used to go to the cluster, so we just reuse that. And pretty soon all this, you know, little pile of spaghetti here is going to be connected to this, and you'll think that wasn't so hard. So let's get stripping and connecting. Here's these, I've just nipped the bulbs off the end of these, all these grey and red ones, because it's all the one wire. Now I've also cut the insulation or the wrap around this center section of harness that goes from the right side through to the left side, because these four wires, sorry, for the dash lights all come back into one little plug in the middle, which is this one right here. You can see there's, I'm trying to look what I'm doing, I'm not looking at the camera. They all come into this one cluster here, this little connector. So we can cut those short, we can pull out the one, just choose one, doesn't really matter which one, to go to, you know, be the main supply for your dash lights. So yeah, I'm just going to cut 3 of those away, save one, and run that to our little black box. Okay, so we're getting through it. You see here, I've put in the left and right, connected those up. They're just little, if we can see them in there, little flathead screws that just I call them a grub screw, but I'm not sure you guys all know what that means. But it's just a little tiny screw. You just slide it into the hole in the side, the wire, obviously strip it back, slide it in, tighten the little screw down. So we've got our left and right sides turn signal indicators, you know, little dash lights. The high beam is in there now, and I've also added down here the ground, and that's just using the ground that used to ground the old cluster or gauges. So that's just there for you to use. So that's plugged in. Now the other thing we got to, you know, a couple more things to do. So we're down to 3 wires over here. Now these 2 used to go to the amp gauge. They can just be basically cut back. They're not used because it senses volts now, the new cluster, not amps. Amps is kind of an old school thing. So these just get cut back, sealed. Now the third one we got over here is this red with a white tracer. That is your oil, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, no, that's your temperature. Alright, now that goes away because we get a completely new temperature sender unit that is calibrated to work with the Dakota system. So this wire goes away, again, cut that back, a little bit of heat shrink on the end of it. Don't just tape it back into the loom. Tape has a habit of coming off. Get some heat shrink on it. And particularly anything that's live, like these dash light ones that I've cut, you can see here. You know, when the lights are on, these are going to be live, so you don't want them touching anything. And over to this side, we've got this red and white with a red tracer. The oil and the temper are reversed. Red with white tracer, white with red tracer. So they're pretty easy to pick up. So yeah, that one again gets its own new wiring, its own new sensor, so that again calibrated with this cluster, you know, with the Dakota Digital. And the yellow one over here, kind of the lucky last, pretty much, is going to be that's your gas, which, you know, like literally unplugs straight off the back of the gas gauge. So yeah, that's kind of fairly self-explanatory. Of course, the other thing you can do is get yourself a wiring diagram off eBay or something like that. They sell a lot of these coloured display, you know, like a coloured printed version of the wiring diagram. Those are pretty handy. The other wire, this one here of the 3 on this side, the black one, or black and green tracer, that is your ignition supply. So this only has power when you're on ignition. So we'll use that, and we'll put that into just down here, which you can see you've got ignition power, 12 volt constant. We will have to dig around and find a 12 volt constant, you know, behind here somewhere. Probably likely to go off the back of the ignition switch here. And yeah, that'll, you know, sometimes there's an easier spot to go to. You have plugs like this one. You got this is a factory plug here. Gosh, that shadow's annoying, isn't it? Sorry guys, it's only me filming, I'm afraid. That's a accessory ignition supply, so that's already been used for a couple of things, but that turns off. You have to keep this little brain has to stay live all the time, so it keeps its calibrations. So yeah, we got 6 wires left. 4 of them are going away, and another 2 to connect. So it's not that bad really. Alright, I'm going to keep at it. Alrighty, let's see if we can see in here. You can see I've used heat shrink on some of these leftover wires where we've deleted a few, so just always try and use heat shrink. Just, you know, it's just a precaution. You know, electrical fire is something you don't want to experience in any car, let alone a classic car. So there's that, that's all done. Now if you look in here, you see there's a black wire there which I've added. This is a ground for the fuel input. You've got signal which is coming from the tank, and you've got a ground. Now if you read the instructions, they will actually say run a ground wire right back to the tank. Now, and you know, bolt it to the ground terminal on the tank. Now one of the things with the Fords, the Mustangs, they don't have a ground terminal on the tank. They basically rely on the little the ring to make a ground, bridge a ground from the tank to the center unit. So there's nowhere to actually put it. And what I typically do, not typically but I always do, is run a ground, you know, into behind the dash somewhere. Now you know, Dakota Digital do recommend running it all the way back to the tank. Now I've done a lot of these and I haven't done that. I've grounded it to behind the dash and not had a problem. Now in saying that, first time I do run into a problem, I will be running a wire down to right all the way back down to the tank. But I've had 100% success rate with just grounding it behind the dash, so I'm going to keep doing that until such time as it proves a problem. So there's that. We're kind of about done here for the factory wiring. You can see we've got, you know, there's going to be quite a few terminals left open, like your warning lights, what gear you're in, you know, the 4x4, the brake light there, you'll see there's nothing going to it. On the engine, that's engine check light, that's brake, e-brake light, none of which applicable to the Mustang. So, but we still do have a bunch here, which is all pressure, temp, and the speed sensor. So that's really the next part of the install. We've got all the factory wiring worked in to, you know, to the brain down here, and so I'm going to tidy all this up. We'll re-tape this loom here and get all this tied together. Potentially find a home for the brain, which is going to be down in there. It seems like a nice little spot to put it on the Mustangs. So yeah, next step is to put all the Dakota Digital sensors in the engine, all of them, all two of them, and we have to put the little speed sensor into the transmission because the old mechanical speedo cable goes away. So yeah, let's switch positions, head into the engine bay, and keep at it. And here we are now. Yeah, you might notice down here we've got a shiny new radiator. That's part of this the work we're doing on this go round on this car. Now, so we've just slipped that in there. We've got some hoses obviously to get for that yet. The two sensors we're replacing are down here, which is the water temp, which most of you Mustang guys will be familiar with that, or small block Ford guys for that matter. And then you've got an all pressure center unit down here. Now this factory wiring goes away. We won't be using that. That's what we cut off on the inside. The same with the one down here. That goes away. So we'll just trim that off, tie it back, and, you know, fold it back into the wiring harness, and that'll be gone. And we've got a nice new senders and fancy little weatherproof plugs and all that to go on it. So yeah, let's get these old ones out. Okay, so we've got our little new sender units in. That one's hiding down under there. Here's our cables that come supplied. Nice little weather seal connectors on them. We'll get that to focus. There we go. And you can't get them wrong. You know, like the pins are quite different from oil. If it'll focus between the, you know, 2 wires, 3 wires, so you can't really get that wrong. So let's get them snapped on. We got that one. It snaps in there. Then we just have to run this little bit of cable. They certainly give you plenty. So we just got to find our way through the firewall, up and behind the dash, tighten that into the brain, or the interface box, as I imagine Dakota Digital would like me to refer to it as. I'm a bit old school, I just call it the brain. So yeah, let's get those cables run and keep connecting. We're making pretty good progress here. We've got basically everything's wired up now. I ran a signal wire to the coil to run the tack. That just came in down here, just straight into where it says it's green tack. It's actually fairly straightforward if you just kind of chill and think about it. It really does explain it. Comes with a great set of instructions. It's pretty wordy, but like it does explain it well. So so we've got all the power supplies, the switch 12 volts, full-time 12 volts is all coming in. The only thing really left now to do, we got 3 more wires to connect, and that's the speed sensor. Now for that we've got to dive under the car, pull out the speedo drive, the factory one that's in there, pop in the new one, which is kicking around here somewhere, pop that in there, and again it's a plug-in cable similar to the water temp and the oil pressure. So we just got to run that up. We'll just run that back up through where the speedo cable used to go, bring it up here, put it in here, and then all we do is plug the bus cable into this, plug it into the display, and we should have a dash. Getting to the fun stuff now. Right, we got the speedo sensor wired in here. So I've actually run out of things to put in it. So this is done. Everything's wired. Now I did run into a problem with the speedo drive, because you have to take the old speedo cable out and you put an adapter in, and then the little electronic coupling goes onto there, and there's simply not enough room for it under there. The cross member from the TKX is in the way. Like trying to be in the same piece of real estate. So we're going to have to get it up on the rack and, I don't know, do something creative, come up with a way to make it fit in there. But doesn't stop us testing the dash. So this is the brain. Here we got the this is the cluster with the new surround. So it's all looking pretty and shiny. Now this is your bus cable. It goes in the back of that, and that just plugs into here like so. And then in theory, when I turn the ignition key on, we should have some dash. So let's have a look. Oh, look at that. Does a sweep. It's telling us to calibrate the speedo and the fuel, which we've got to do. We'll get into that, at the end of the video. But yeah, we're what have we got? About 11.5 volts. Obviously no temperature, no. The fuel is showing almost 3/4, but that does need calibrating as well, so that's probably not right. You've got high beam light in the middle there, lighting up. So, let's see. We haven't got turn signals because now the reason for that is we put digital tail lights, the sequential tail lights in. So we've got to put the right LED flashing unit in with that. But no reason to believe that won't all work, but let me get those things buttoned down, we'll get it on the rack, and I'll be back shortly. So there is the brain tucked away back down in the dash, ready for the cluster to actually slot into place. I've got that just cable tied around the upper part of the steering column pedal box brace, so that won't rattle. That's just tied in there. We got a little bit of wrapping on some of the loose wiring that where we cut the loom open, and yeah, that's ready for the cluster just go in, be screwed in, and be done. And here we have the cluster all in place. Now I have been out and calibrated it. So we calibrated the gas gauge, which it's really a matter of, there's 2 buttons here which are probably, let me see if I can get in close enough. You'll see there's a little button here and a little one here, and that's how you do all your calibrations. You push them 2 together, or the left or the right, and there's some fantastic instructions in this, extensive installation operation guide that comes with it. Which, yeah, you're going to spend half an hour reading this thing at least, but it will get you on the right track. So that's well worth sitting down and having a read of. As you can see, the new steering wheel's on now. We calibrated the speedo as well, and that's again a matter of scrolling through with those buttons to find the right part of the brain. It's really not that complicated. It will be the first time. You'll have to read it a couple of times and you'll kind of go, oh, I should have done that. But you'll get there, trust me. Like, if I can do it, you guys can do it. So yeah, calibrating the speedo, you just have to drive it on a measured mile, which I just use the GPS on my phone to measure out exactly 1 mile. Once you've done the mile, there's a little procedure going through the little buttons, scrolling through those and hit save and stuff like that. Not overly complicated. I've done other digital dashes that are a lot more complicated. It has an auto calibration feature, and yeah, basically it takes 1 try, and you've got it nailed. So all in all, this is a pretty nice setup. There's a lot of features in it. You can set a lot of different parameters in it. You can get it to tell you when to change your oil. You can get it to give you a warning light on temperature, and you choose the temperature you want it to warn you at. Has a little buzzer feature that will buzz at you when you're revving too hard, if that's what you choose to go with. There's just lots and lots of options depending how tech savvy you are, really. So we'll just spark up those gauges. Here we go. Yeah, looks nice. Looks nice. So yeah, there it is, all done, installed. Did take a few hours. You're certainly going to spend a weekend on it. Yeah, I'd highly recommend it. It's a great install, very straightforward. I like it. It gets a thumbs up from me. So hey, that's it for this episode. Come back and watch the next one. We're going to Black Beauty's going to be taking its first drive, and a little bit of Casper coming up soon. So come see us. Take care, guys.